for my voice, but I have never seen anything like it.
You believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Welcome to the show. I'm Andrew Zimmel, your host as always. Bryan London on the phone line. Greatest Texas State defensive player ever, ? At least on the all-time Sun Belt defensive teams for sure. This guy etched his name in the history books and in your hearts. We start at his redshirt season to what he's doing now. We go over fan support, athletic administration support, his favorite teammates he played with. Anything and everything you want to hear from Bryan London essentially is in this podcast. So if you're a Texas State fan and you want an insight into Bryan's life and the life of Texas State athlete and what this future for Texas State is going to be, this is the podcast for you right here. I'm not going to talk anymore. Here he is. All right, on the phone line right now, I have a long list of accomplishments for him. We'll go through all of it. 2-time solo tackles leader, number 1 in career total solo tackles, assisted tackles in the Sun Belt Conference, number 10 all-time in NCAA football for total tackles at 460, a 4-year starter at Texas State, and one of, I'm going to say, the 15 greatest Texas State athletes of all time, Bryan London on the phone. Bryan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Whoa, what an introduction.
That's what I'm saying. I was going through all this, and I said, do I do a little bit? Do I do all of it? How much is too much? And let me tell you, watching you play the last 4 years, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but watching you play the last 4 years has been some of the most fun football I've seen.
Man, I appreciate that. I try to do my best out there.
So I want to kind of go through your entire career. Is that okay? From the start until right now. Is that what are you cool with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so I looked at, for those of you that didn't pay attention to the beginning of Bryan's career, he goes and he plays football in San Antonio. You didn't always play defense, did you, Bryan? You played both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I had to play both sides of the ball.
Now, what made you stick with defense? Because I was looking at some of the huddle film, or trying to find some of the film that's available online, and you weren't terrible on the offensive side of the ball either.
Yeah. So we played like a not triple option, but wing T, which is, I guess, similar to triple option. So I was a fullback on offense. And I mean, I carried the ball a lot, but, fullback is really just another word for like a battering ram. And, yeah, I didn't have too much fun doing it and not getting any of the praise,
So I guess that's kind of different from playing the defensive side of the ball, where from where I'm sitting, you got a lot of praise on that side of the ball.
Yeah, so like on defense, I mean, I guess you're similar to a battering ram, but you get praise. So I just prefer that route a little bit more.
I don't blame you. Nobody likes just to be the battering ram for somebody else to get all the glory. So you get redshirted.
Exactly.
You get redshirted your freshman year at Texas State. Kind of tell me what went into that decision. Was that a mutual decision between you and the coaching staff, or was that the coaching staff telling you, "Hey, Bryan, we're going to sit you out of here. We're going to let you get ready for the college game"? What was that like?
It definitely wasn't a mutual decision. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was really just, I guess, the coach's decision, I really felt like I had a good fall camp and had put myself in position to be a part of the 2 deep, but I don't know, I guess they just thought differently and that I needed to develop more.
Now, refresh us on who the coaching staff was at that time, because Texas State is now, I guess you had 3 coaching staffs while you were here.
Yes, I had 3 different head coaches.
Who recruited you?
So my red shirt freshman year, that was Dennis Francione.
And what was that like?
Last year.
What was that like? Because for some people that weren't around then, or people that were around, they might have a different perspective of that last couple years of Francione than you might being in the program.
Yeah. So my first year, it was just. I don't want to say I don't want to say anything bad, I guess, but he had just been successful for a very long time, and probably that was like the back end of his career, I guess you could say. Yeah, it just seemed like things were getting a little like past him, I guess you could say.
Well, clearly, if he kind of sits you on the bench and doesn't let you play your freshman year, because the first full year as a starter, well, I'm just saying, the first full year of as a starter, you have 142 total tackles. Do I have that right?
Somewhere around there.
So you play your first complete season in Texas State as the starting linebacker, and you have one of the most tackles in A, school history, and B, for a single season, and B, one of the better seasons for a college linebacker in the 150 years of football, college football. So clearly there was some chip on the shoulder, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've just been used to playing football so long, so that red shirt year just having that taken away from me. And the team wasn't successful, so just, like not being able to contribute to a successful, like to an unsuccessful team, I just had a built-up chip on my shoulder, like I had something to prove.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about that? Because 2-10 is that 2016 season. That's the first year under Withers, and I think everybody knew that there was a lot of growth in the program. There was a lot of things that had to be changed. That's just how it was, and I think that a 2-10 season isn't a disappointment in year one for a fan base that was kind of ready for change. Switching coaches, but for the players inside the program, what was that like that first year?
The first year was definitely, it was hard because the year previous, was a 7-5 year. Everyone feels like they should have went to a bowl game. You get 2 guys drafted. So, me coming in as a freshman, I'm like, wow, this is like, on the up and up. We had guys like Mims back, T. Jones back, Rob Lowe. You just, there's pieces there. So you're just, you're expecting good things. And just for it not to go how everyone kind of envisioned it, it was hard. And especially hard for me just because one of our biggest weaknesses on the defense was run defense. And, as a linebacker, that's one of your biggest jobs, that's where your pride is in a lot. So just not being able to help the team there, just really hurt my pride. I was hurt.
Did you take that personally? The lack of success Texas State had those first couple years, those first 2 years, you'll say?
Yeah. My whole time, like, I just took a lot of pride in just the defensive performance. Traditionally the linebackers looked at as like the equivalent to the quarterback on offense. So, I just always took a lot of pride in stopping and being a good defense and being a good leader on the defense.
And I think we've talked about that before. Like in the chance I've gotten to interview you, we've talked about how being the quarterback of the defense, the guy that kind of has to step up and be the vocal leader. Were you always in that position, or did it take you a little bit while to get to that position? And if it did, who were the mentors for you to get where you were at that point?
It definitely took some time to get there. Obviously after you redshirt, you're kind of just going the mode where you focus on yourself. So that first year, I was mainly concerned about how I was playing, how I could get better, how I could make an impact. I was just a lot of I, But fortunately, I had Gabe Lloyd next to me. He came from junior college. So I really just kind of, just sat back and let him, kind of do the leading thing. I just was responsible for my job.
See, football.
So that was probably the biggest one first year.
I was going to say football is a really interesting sport because not only do you have the however many guys on the roster, then you got the 12 guys on the starting team, but you also have the guys at your position. Can you give me a little bit of insight on the relationship you had with the guys that were next to you at the linebacker position?
Yeah, man. That first year I played, I had Gabe Lloyd, Louis Rubin, Easy Onyama was in the room for a little bit. Those guys, they poured into me a lot and just showed me, like, that first year, I didn't have a lot of fun like in the position room. So they just showed me like, you know, we did a lot of things together like off the field, and just, you know, you meet with those guys all the time, you do drills with those guys all the time. So I've just made like brothers for a lifetime, just in the linebacker room specifically over the years.
And do you think that helped your game? Being able to not only, you said you have brothers for life essentially, did that help your game knowing that you had each other's back?
Oh, definitely. Like, I've just always been able to look over to the guy next to me and know that like they were gonna always do their best, and just really pushed me. That first year, Gabe, he pushed me a lot, and you know, after he left, it went to Nick, and Nick pushed me just as hard. So yeah, I was definitely appreciative for those guys. They allowed me to elevate my game for sure.
Let's move on to your sophomore season, because this is really when I got to be on the practice field and watching you practice, being in the post-game press conferences. And ironically enough, your sophomore season statistically probably the one that doesn't have the best numbers. You have 91 total tackles. That's the only season in the 4 years as a starter that you didn't have double-digit tackles.
Mm-hmm.
You got to. I'm not saying that that's a blemish, because 91 tackles is incredible. But
Yeah.
but looking back on that sophomore season now, you got a 2-10 season underneath your belt. I think a lot of people thought the next year would be a 4-win season. You think you would double the win totals. What happened going into that next season? Because you had a great year one, personally, year one, but the team struggled. So going into year two, what was kind of the mindset?
Year two, the mindset was more just that was the first year was kind of like not expected. Like that's when I like had personal expectations, obviously, but then people started to look to me just, you know, to lead more.
Yeah,
and, it was just different from me, I guess.
In
Just
what
trying
way?
Just I've always been like a kind of, you know, like lead by example person, or, you know, just take care of myself, you know. So just trying to be more vocal. I just didn't want to step on any feet. You know, I didn't want people to think that I thought I was like above people, you know, everything. Just the things that come with trying to be like a first year leader.
Now, what is that like? Because I think for a lot of fans, a lot of people that sit in the stands, you see the linebacker position, and after that first year, it was kind of decided for you that, hey, this is going to be the guy that fans know is going to be leading the defense. I think you got ranked one of the top 25 sophomore linebackers by Bleacher Report. There was a bunch of good, like really good articles and really good press around this Bryan London guy, who kind of untouted recruit, somebody that I don't think a lot of people thought was going to be as good as he was in that first year. So year two, you have a lot of expectations as well, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make revisionist history. I'm just trying to figure out, like, am I on the right track there? Like, did you feel kind of the outside pressure, or did that never affect you?
Not outside pressure didn't necessarily affect me as much, but I guess the biggest thing would be I've always been like a hard worker, but from like I approached the off season the same way I did going into the year before, which, you know, obviously worked hard, but like, and I grew. I was smarter. Like, I definitely made less mistakes than I did. I mean, obviously didn't show like in the stat book, but I mean, I grew as a player, but I still prepared the same. You can't prepare the same and expect like the same results. So I really think that was more than anything my redshirt sophomore year.
Interesting. Okay. So junior year, let's talk about it. Because this is really where I think the fan base starts getting rowdy, right? Like the 2-10 seasons back to back has to be frustrating. Can you talk to me what the locker room was like at that point after the season gets over, that redshirt sophomore year?
was just yeah, we were just at first we were just upset because we knew like we should have done better. Like it was like like yeah, I can't like really explain it much better than that. We just knew that like we should have been better that second year, even if not like like 12-0, but we still like should have improved. We felt like we left a lot on the table.
Now, when you say you left a lot on the table, are you talking like we go in the film room and we see missed assignments, or are you saying that we just felt at the end of the year that like the tank wasn't empty, that we still had more to give? Because I think those are two different things.
Oh, just basically, yeah, like you said, missed assignments. Just things that we knew we could have done better.
And I think that's fair. And I like the retrospect and being able to look back on that, Bryan, because I think for a lot of fans, who watched the games, we can't say, we don't get the all 22. We don't get to say like, oh, well, there's a missed assignment there, a missed assignment there. We just get to leave the stadium with a bitter taste in our mouth, right? And I can't imagine that you get that plus having to go in on Sunday and kind of see where you messed up.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the lack of fan support, because that has been a talking point. It's been a buzzword, I feel, because I think that what happens here, especially at Texas State, is that there's an actual problem, and instead of actually directly solving problems, people want to talk about the problem and never really give a solution. Did the fan support ever affect your play, did you think?
Personally, I would say no, but I mean, it definitely makes a difference when you run out of that tunnel on Saturday, and you just see like cheering fans, or like after getting on the game, like just being on Twitter, just just seeing like student body and stuff, just shut them down, like that it affects you. Like, because I mean, we obviously want to win just as much as you guys want to win. We put in the work, and just to not see it come to fruition hurts us as well. So just to see the fans kind of piggyback on it sometimes, it definitely affects.
I'm glad that somebody said this, because the Twitter deal has always been an interesting spot, because there's a lot of fans who want to complain on Twitter and have never seen a snap of football in their life. They want to complain. They've never seen us. You've gotten to play at some pretty nice stadiums. You've gotten to play in front of some pretty good fans, and you have some friends around college football who have gotten to play in those environments. Are you ever envious? Were you ever envious of the support that they got from their fans?
Definitely. Yeah, I have some friends that play at obviously like you said, pretty big venues, and just even in their down years. I mean, granted, we've had a few consecutive, but even in their down years, the fan support was always there.
Did they ever?
I definitely did make me a little envious.
I know Withers talked to us a handful of times as like media members, saying that, oh, I would love to have the fan support, but if they don't show up, we still play the game. Did that ever come in the locker room? Was it ever like an issue there with the lack of fans? And I don't want to like have you disclose too much, because I understand that it's kind of a tight-knit group and you don't want to say anything. But I understand if you don't. But did he ever say anything to you guys about the lack of attendance?
Not specifically. I mean, he kind of just spoke on what we always knew. Like, obviously you want fan support, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to give them a reason to show up.
And do you feel like you gave them a reason to show up individually?
I mean, individually, I would like to think I did. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think you did. That's just I think it's a fact. I don't think it's a disputable. There's evidence. There's stats on the page. So moving into year 3, okay? 3-9 season. This is a year that Withers gets fired before the end of the season. And there was rumors, and I'd heard this from other people, that the student athletes didn't hear about this firing until it was on Twitter. Is that correct, or is that just a rumor?
Nah, that was correct. I remember first seeing it on Twitter.
How does that happen?
I follow a lot of like football pages and stuff on Twitter, and I was legit just on my TL. I think I was in the training room, and yeah, it just came across, and I was like, nah, this can't be legit. So I just sent it to some of my teammates, and I just like checked the like validity of like the scores. I want to say it was like Football Scoop or something like that.
It was Football Scoop that broke it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember just seeing. I was like, I mean, like we would know, and sure enough, like it was true. So yeah, I was crazy. I was one of the crazy experiences.
From the beginning of the season, I think as a media member, I can personally say that I knew that there was thin ice for Coach Withers. But I did not anticipate. I never thought that it would be before the end of the season firing. Coming into the year,
that's what really like was shocked to me. Like I mean, obviously, in the business, that we're in. I mean, it's like win or there's a chance of you being fired, obviously. But yeah, I never thought like it would be during the season.
What was your relationship with Coach Withers like?
We're really close, me and Coach Withers. Yeah, we're really close.
Do you have any good stories?
Do you
have any good stories about Coach Withers in practice?
In practice, I mean that first year when he got there, in the spring. Basically, like, cause Gabe Lloyd, like he started off like really good. Like Coach Withers like loved him. And I remember Coach Withers just like being in front of the team. Just, man, I'm glad we got at least one linebacker. I'd love to find another one. And I was just like thinking, like, dang, like, am I really doing like that bad? So I mean that would be like as far as like just a story, I guess. But
wow, okay, what a motivational story.
Yeah, like I was like, dang, maybe I am just not good. I was really questioning myself. But I mean, me and Coach Woods, I went to media day with him twice. He worked with the Saints, so he was familiar with New Orleans. He just showed me like some restaurants and just some things downtown. It was cool.
I never didn't like Coach Withers. I always thought he was a really good guy. I always thought that he always had the right thing in his heart going forward. Coaching wise, what was the problem? Because was it just the talent of the Sun Belt Conference, or was it game planning? What caused the breakup between Withers and Texas State?
I would probably just say like the execution, really. Like, I mean, I don't know whether that falls on coaches or players, but that 2018?
2018 was the his final year, yeah.
Yeah, that 2018 year was honestly probably the hardest year to swallow as a player. If you just like look back at it, I mean, like there's just so many games that we should have won at South Alabama, should have won at UTSA, should have won Georgia Southern at home, should have won at Monroe. I should have won at Troy. So I think I just named like 5 games, and we won 3 games. So it's just like that year we just lost so many close games that could have been like the difference. And him keeping his job and just having a winning season. So that season really hurt.
So like we talked about before, you didn't get the information face to face. You got it on the timeline. What did that do to the locker room? Not getting the information straight from Withers, or not getting it straight from Texas State, but finding about it on Twitter.
It's obviously just kind of embarrassing, I guess, because like we're getting it at the same time as like other people. So like, my mom's asking me just stuff like that, and it's like I really don't know you know, I don't know like the validity of it. It was just like we're like, wow, like, you know, is this for real? Just like during the season and stuff. And we had a game to prepare for, and like this is being thrown at us and everything in the midst of like an already like disappointing season. So
it was really the cherry on top of a disappointing junior year.
Yes.
All right, so then you get Coach Spavital, an offensive head coach, and I thought this season, personally, I thought this season was the season that you were going to show up and show out and kind of prove. I don't know what else you had left to prove at Texas State, being not only one of the, like I mentioned in the pre-roll, one of the best 15 athletes that Texas State's had, but also being one of the top 3 best defensive players Texas State's been able to put on the football field. You secure the all-time tackles leader for Texas State, pretty much engraving your name in the history books. What was this last season? What were you trying to prove this last season?
I mean, this last season, I was really just trying to. I wouldn't say necessarily prove anything. I just wanted to go out, obviously better than what we did, but I wanted to go out with the bowl game. I felt like it was attainable this year. And, yeah.
I feel really bad, Brian, because I can kind of, I feel it in your voice, and I don't want to keep harping on, like, sad or bad topics. What was the most fun memory you had of this senior season?
The most fun?
Yeah, or the most entertaining, or something that you're going to take with you as like a good memory of this year.
The overtime win against Georgia State. That was a good moment.
Talk to me about that game, because Dan Etling on the other end of the field, very good Sun Belt quarterback. That was the most entertaining game, I think, of the season for everybody that was in attendance of it. I had like 3 heart attacks during that game.
Yeah.
Talk to me through it as a player.
Yeah, that game was it was a back and forth game. Yeah, it was just a back and forth game. Remember, we thought we came up, you know, big in the red zone to finish it. And, you know, like, everyone thinks time has expired. We're ready to celebrate. And they're like, no. So it was just crazy. It was just, you know, Texas State, like, man, we've experienced so many, I feel like, bad calls and just heartbreak. So you're thinking, like, we think we won the game. Then they're like, no. And, like, you know, it's quick to, like, you don't go in overtime. You're like, oh, man, is this going to be another one of those games? And just to finish it in overtime, it was just like it was really good. Like, yeah, it was just a good feeling.
So I don't know if you know this, Brian, but before I thought that we had won the game in regulation. Texas State won the game in regulation. So I put out the congratulatorial tweet to Coach Spavital. I said, hey, congrats on your first win at Texas State.